Possessing and growing marijuana is now legal in Massachusetts. However, the legal sale of pot has been delayed by the legislature. Cities and towns are also struggling with how they'll handle having shops selling marijuana products. Amherst voted overwhelmingly to legalize pot, and now some members of the select board there are raising concerns. Connecting Point correspondent Carolee McGrath spoke with Amherst Select Board Chair Alisa Brewer and board member Connie Kruger to get the story.
Lawmakers recently enacted a bill that would delay the implementation of portions of the marijuana bill. Are you satisfied with that, and do you think it goes far enough?
It's my understanding that a lot of communities in the Commonwealth have asked for clarification on the law that was passed. And it's also my understanding that it was generated by the marijuana industry and skews heavily towards their interests. And I think what we're looking to do is balance some of the community concerns, municipal concerns, with those of the industry so that we can best operate in a responsible manner and also to protect consumers and users.
And so we're a college town, UMass, Amherst College, Hampshire College, and so we feel like our situation is a little different than a lot of other places in terms of having time to address health and safety concerns effectively. I mean, we knew it was coming, but yet it's not like we could do much of anything proactively associated with it rather than wait and see what the regulations were.
You have a very young population in Amherst with a median age of 21 years old. How difficult will it be to manage this law with that young population?
Well, I mean, we were pleased about the fact, and going back to decriminalization years ago, medical marijuana, et cetera. I mean, we used to have extravaganza on the common. This is not a problem for us in Amherst, so to speak, except we're not sure what kind of problem might develop associated with it. And so that's why we're having these conversations. Like, have we thought different aspects of this through? Whether it's signage, whether it's money, how much do we need? It's not a similar situation in some respects as, say, like addiction problems that you talk about with gambling, for example, whereas that seems clear. Like, we know there are going to be addiction problems for gambling, you put some money into that. Is that really the same for marijuana? We don't know. And so that's a conversation we want our public health people to be able to talk about. We want our Board of Health people to be able to talk about. When it comes to learning from other states, things like gummy bears. I mean, that is a really big issue for us. That is going to be even more attractive, obviously, to a younger population to have edibles because no one smokes anymore, right? And so you're not allowed to smoke on any of the campuses. And so that's not a likely delivery method. In fact, a delivery method is more likely is electronic vaping or something associated with the edibles. And the edibles are not effectively addressed in the current legislation at all. And so can we get on board with getting that set up before we're too much further down this road? I mean, will they be able to start selling things in recreational shops before laws get passed? It feels rushed in a way that doesn't need to be rushed because of what we've learned, because as our legislators have gone off on these field trips to find out about the different things, it seems like we ought to be able to get those things lined up so we're ready. And that comes to the money issue as well. We understand the part about trying to destroy the black market, right? That's a great thing. But yet, if we don't charge taxes that actually cover the amount of effort that goes into regulating something like this, whether at the state level or the local level, then what kind of individual agreement do we make with each individual place?
How concerned are you about the effects of this law on public safety?
Well, I think there's been some discussion about that at your campus and community coalition meetings about what all the different aspects are that they're considering looking to their peer communities in other states where this is already passed and what they think it might look like.
Right. So I think they're gearing up for what both enforcement and emergency medical response. I mean, we have that now with alcohol and illegal drug use and just what happens on a weekend, on a big party weekend. They are very well trained and skilled at interventions and how to treat people. This just adds another component. So I'm confident that they'll be able to handle this once we're in implementation, but it is something to learn about. I mean, I've been telling people, the marijuana products that are out now aren't what people might be familiar with from, 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, that the potencies are different, the delivery systems, as Alisa said, are different, and we need to understand some of the science and some of the implications of the newer products and the concentrations, the dosages that are happening.
Tell us about the concerns you have about the home grow provision.
provision. And I think part of what's confusing to me about that, and I'll be curious to hear from our public safety staff about, is that it allows for basically 2 growers per household. How does that apply in a community like Amherst where we allow 4 unrelated people to live together? Why is it reasonable that it's 2 per household? I mean, it just seems like a totally made up number. This is me speaking personally. And so until we hear more about what's the expectation associated with that, it's hard for me to imagine that we would expect any of our enforcement personnel to go and find out if 1, 2, or 4 people in a household are growing home grow. But yet, what is the mechanism associated with that? So it's an odd place we're in.
I think you can gift up to 1 ounce.
Right.
And then I think if you do, and I'm kind of going from memory from a few weeks ago when I looked at this, if you are growing, it can't be in view of anybody.
Right.
It has to be secured. So how to implement those
But that's
requirements.
immediate.
Right, and so that's already
That's now.
happening.
That's now.
And so we're not clear, at this point, we haven't had any discussions about going out and checking on people during home grows, right? We totally are not having that conversation. But as this unfolds, I'm sure it will start getting reported, right? Just like people report when people have parties and people report when people have mean dogs, they're gonna report that they think that a ton of electricity is being spent over at the house next door because they're growing a ton of marijuana inside the house. Well, then what's that gonna look like? Like we just don't know at this point is a lot of what it is. And so what we're looking for is we wanna make it really clear. We're totally in support of medical marijuana. We wish our facilities were already up and running. We understand that recreational marijuana is here. We just wanna do it right.
So Alisa Brewer and Connie Kruger, thank you so much for joining us and talking about this issue that is surely going to affect many towns and communities across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you.